Welcome everyone to Legion Gaming. I'm your host Donnie, and as always I'm joined by my co-host Ducey.
Hello everyone.
And today we have a very special guest, a guest you guys have heard from before. We have our good buddy Mike, who's joined us from the Hollywood Video Guys podcast.
Hey everyone.
Fellas, how are you doing this fanciful afternoon?
So good.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Ready to talk about more games.
Yeah, it's another fun episode. This is episode 31, which is pretty crazy. Last week we had our great Star Fox episode that's been out, which if you haven't listened to, go ahead and check it out.
Heck yeah, that was a good episode.
I was a big fan of that game. But this week we're talking Phantasy Star IV for the Genesis, which is really fun because we haven't covered an RPG before on our podcast so far. We've always kind of thought like, we're going to cover one, but we didn't think it would be Phantasy Star, so it's going to be fun. This is a guest pick.
Yeah, you'd think we'd start with Final Fantasy, but yeah, I'm welcome the opportunity to play something new, and I'm on board with this game now. Yay. Thanks, Mike, for the suggestion.
Got another one.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is, I think it's going to be a really fun one because, like Ducey said, he had really no familiarity with it at all, right? Like, he didn't play it at all.
No, I mean, this was a Genesis game, and I did not grow up with the Genesis, and even if I had, though, I mean, we'll find out, I probably would have not had this game.
Yeah. And Mike, you'd only played it fairly recently, I think. Right?
I had never. So I was a Genesis only kid, and I never saw it for sale at any point while I had my Genesis. And I had heard about it on the internet, but I only played it maybe a couple of years ago. And immediately I was like, oh, no, yeah, this is true. Like, everything they're saying about this game is true. Like, This is freaking awesome.
It's really good. So we have a lot to talk about with this game. It's actually has a really interesting legacy and series roots. But before we get to that, what have you guys been playing lately? So I guess we'll start with our guest, Mike.
Okay, yeah. Pretty easy because I've only been playing 2 games. One of them is this game. So we don't have to talk about that one yet. So the other game that I've been playing is Jedi Survivor. Star Wars. Is it just Jedi?
Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was if it was a caption underneath. Another thing.
Like a subtitle.
Yeah,
Star Wars : Jedi Survivor.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Jedi Survivor because it dropped on Game Pass recently. And I had always wanted to play it, but I knew that it would eventually, because the EA game, right?
Yep. I've been hyping it for the last year, so I was excited for you to play it.
And you were right, it took about a year
for it to release. And because it's an EA game, I was like, I want it so bad, but I'll wait. And then I finally got it. And it's better than I thought it would be, is how good it is.
Yeah.
Starts off kind of slow, and before you get through basically you becoming you again, like they do in all sequel games, where you start off as a lesser version than you for a little bit, it's a little puzzly, a little too puzzly at times, where I'm like, okay, I gotta do this other thing to get this other thing. I gotta go up here and go down here, and it's fun, but that can get a little overwhelming. But once you get to your full strength and you're fully in the character, the story's amazing. The fights are awesome. You fight 30 guys at once, 30 robots at once. That was pretty sweet. And all the fight scenes are cool. The cutscenes are cool. It's graphically, it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, it's on. It just hit Game Pass. It's also on PS Plus because that's also part of the EA Access thing. But it was one of my favorite games last year that was on my list because I really loved Fallen Order. I thought that was a really great game. I thought there were some spots I had issues with, particularly around the bosses. I thought were sometimes overly difficult and cheap because there were some attacks you literally just couldn't really avoid.
Oh yeah.
But with Jedi Survivor, they fixed a lot of that. I think the combat's a little bit more fluid. There's a lot more combat options. The bosses are way more interesting than they were in Fallen Order.
Yeah, they're not just cheap. They will hand your ass to you if you let them. But once you figure out, maybe not so much their pattern always, but what you need to do well against them, they can be pretty easy to kill.
Yeah, they definitely have an element where you should learn them, and it's great because you die over and over, but it's not an annoyance really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
more importantly for me, this game is it's pretty much a Metroidvania, which is also why I love it so much because there's a lot of backtracking. Just when you think the game's introduced everything to you, you start getting more traversal options. You get a hook shot and a double dash in the air and stuff. It gets really awesome. So I know you're close to the end.
The first one kind of did that too, but on a smaller scale.
Yeah, this one was really long. It was a pretty longer game.
But the same idea as the first one, where like I said, you take a little bit of time to get all that stuff, which that always annoys me in sequel games, where it's but I became the ultimate version of myself and let what happened.
That's why I really enjoyed Spider-Man 2, because you're just right off the bat, you're still Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You still know your stuff.
Why isn't that how it is? And then just I'll figure it out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway. Yeah, so that's what I've been playing. It's amazing. If you haven't played it yet, like definitely, if you have either PS Plus or Game Pass, like get it because it's that good. It's so good.
Very good game. Ducey, what have you been up to lately?
Well, I do want to get into that, but I've still been playing The Outer Worlds, which I don't want to give up on like I did the first time.
I know I've been seeing you on there all the time.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's so fun. And I've just been like mowing through the side quests along with the main quests. I don't know if it's just because I've played a lot of these games now that I'm getting better at it, or if The Outer Worlds in particular made it easier to like gather a bunch of quests at the hub town and then go out and do them kind of in an order, like arcing around the map, and then come back and turn them in. But I've been doing that. The story is still great and still comical. I think I'm only on like the third planet type thing you get to, which is still not back up to where I finished off the first time. And I've already noticed that I could potentially do one of the DLC add-ons if I want. Just at any time I can talk to my onboard computer and start that up, which is definitely not how Ultimate Alliance 3 handles their things.
I now fully understand what you meant when you did that, because it's awful. It's awful.
But I've also been playing Topspin 2K25. Is it 25?
Yeah. 25.
My God, I love that game. I haven't liked a tennis game this much since like maybe Topspin 2 or one of the earlier Mario tennises.
I want to play it.
But yeah, it is so great. I really like the way they've done the career mode. It's just a unique way of doing it, of doing things where it is based on like your character's stats, but also there is a little bit of your skill can be inputted into it to help carry you through. You're not just at the mercy of you have terrible stats and you're going to lose. You can learn and get better at it.
Yeah, I've been playing that too, and I'm terrible at it. like I'm having a really hard time winning tournaments, but I'm getting the flow of the game. But it's great because I am learning how to play it, because it does have its own training mode, and it does a really good job teaching the basics, but also how to play tennis. But in here, what I have to break habits of is I'm used to playing arcade tennis games.
Yeah.
Even like the older Topspin games were, they weren't as simulation heavy like this one is. But this one, it's really important, like how and where you position yourself and everything. Like a lot of it factors in every single shot.
The length of the matches really factors in, because you could like spend way too long on the first person in like the quarterfinals, and then you have barely any stamina by the time you get to the semis or the finals. And I was just like, I was telling Dawn, like, when you're creating your guy early on, put a lot of your points into stamina, because eventually you're going to get to the more major tournaments that have more than just 3 rounds.
Wow.
And then even if you do like win a tournament and you've survived all the way through, you might end up with like this minor injury, like an aching back or an aching ankle, and you'll want to definitely rest, because if you try to go right into the very next tournament, one, it's at a different location, so the travel time actually factors in.
Oh my goodness.
You could get jet lag, and then you won't be at your A game for the next tournament, so you'll want to rest like a month or two, which does lower your rank, but hey, you want to do that so that you're at your A game for
It'll
the next
eventually
one.
even out.
Yeah, and you're more at risk too. The lower your health percentages, your stamina is.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think like the threshold's like 30%. You might be able to break your ankle or something, or strain your ankle.
Yeah.
And then you could have more serious injuries, which will push you out even longer. So I haven't even gotten to that point where I could get injured, because like I usually get knocked out so early that it doesn't matter.
Will this do for tennis what PGA 2K?
I hope it does.
It could. Yeah.
It's that good?
We know Randy got
I love
it, and
I'm gonna get it.
maybe we should play around later today or something.
I'll try. Yeah, I'm down. I'm super down.
Do some doubles on there or something.
I think we can also play as our created selves, can't we? If we're
should be
doing
able to.
like online matches.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If we're playing online together, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You playing anything else? Anything else? You got Topspin, and Outer Worlds.
One last thing, I actually just started last night because it came out on Game Pass, and I don't know why this caught my attention. Well, I do know why, but like, it's Little Kitty, Big City.
Oh, I've heard of this game. Yeah, I didn't know it was out.
It's a great little game where I never played Stray, but I do want to get into that sometime. I think it's on PS Plus.
Yeah.
But this one is more of a cartoony version of that, where you are a cat, and you've fallen from your perch. You were up on this like apartment building up on a high floor, and you've fallen off, and you're trying to get back home. So you kind of go through this sort of open world environment, and you have to start doing things for other animals. Like a crow wants all these shiny bits, and if you get the shiny bits to him, he'll trade you a fish, which the fish will energize you enough to be able to climb. And then there's other like street cats around that are telling you how to do certain moves so that you can progress further. Meanwhile, you can also do the typical cat things where you get up on a ledge and you just swat something off like a flower pot or something, or you can meow. Like the hilarious thing was last night when I started it up, my cats noticed on the TV screen that this cat was moving around, and then I pushed the button to meow, and they immediately like stopped what they were doing and just focused laser.
Like, is this real?
Yeah, on the TV, and I just kept moving the cat, like making it look at them, and they were like following it with their heads, and it's just
amazing,
really well done for like it seems like kind of an indie game. The camera angles can get a little wonky. It really makes you feel like N64 days. But all in all, I think I'm going to have some fun with this.
Yeah.
What system is it on?
It's on Xbox. It's on Game Pass.
Oh,
I think it's also on.
I think
Switch
my wife
and
might.
PS5.
Yeah.
That game.
It's one of those multi-platform releases. But I did see one at the Game Pass, and yeah, I didn't know it'd come out recently. I saw it was announced, and it seemed like it was quiet for a while. For what I've been playing, I've been rotating out a lot, which sucks. Like, it kind of a little bit of a, I don't know, ADD lately with some of the games I've been playing. But I got into Balatro, which is
Oh, I did that too.
Yeah, so it released on Steam a while back, and I almost got it then. And then they said there's gonna be a console release, so I got on Switch because it's perfect for that. And this is a weird. It's kind of a roguelike card game based around poker, and the whole basis for the game is that you have a blind to meet, which is usually like a high score, like 300, 600, whatever. Mm-hmm. And you have to play poker hands, which all have different ranks, which means they multiply depending on what cards you play. Mm. And there's Joker cards, which also modify those and can add more multipliers. So the whole game is basically just like a giant score attack with bigger and bigger blinds, but you're playing poker hands. So it's one of those things where it's like a run could be 15, 20 minutes, or it could be 2 minutes, depending on what draw you get. But it's a really great just pick up and play. I was sitting there for an hour and a half the other night just trying to get through all the bosses on here.
Yeah, I've played it once. I haven't done any multiple like runs. I'm still on my first run, but I'm up to like round 9.
Oh wow!
And the blinds are into the thousands. But I also have the multipliers that will like sometimes I can get the blind in one hand.
Yeah, and that's what makes it fun. Is like you really have to like. I'm not a good poker player at all. I barely play it, but it's like here you just have to know. You know what cards make up what hands, which it also has like a cheat sheet as well because different ones have more points. But it's fun to kind of sort of strategize like what cards you're going to drop and what you want to keep because you want to make like a flush or something.
Yeah,
that'll be modified with your Joker card.
And if you play certain hands more than others, like my 2 pairs is more higher level than a straight.
Yeah.
So right now the multiplier is actually giving me more points for that than trying to form a straight.
Yeah, it's really freaking cool. It's one of those games like you easily get pretty addicted to just to sit there.
Yeah.
It's only like $15. Like I definitely say it's worth that at least.
Nice.
And then the other game I've been still playing is Stellar Blade. I'm probably about like halfway through the game, but I'm also just doing like Final Fantasy Rebirth where I was just doing every little side quest I can pick up because the combat's really fun and the side quests they're not like cyberpunk level of immersive or anything, but they're fun, just combat challenges or, like go pick this up and then it'll teleport you back to complete it. And then I got back into V Rising, which I didn't realize I'd played 2 years ago.
Whoa.
Like I feel like I played that within the last year because it was an early access game, but they released version 1.0 and this game, it's a world where vampires used to rule the world, and then man rose up against it. Now, there's no vampires left. They've been hiding underground. So you play as a vampire to basically rebuild your castle and like take over the world again. But it's like one of those survival builder type games. And you have to go hunt at night because if you're out in the daytime, then you'll start to get burned.
I've wanted to play that when you first mentioned it, I guess 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I totally forgot what the name of it was, and I don't know. Is it even on consoles yet?
Yeah, it is. It's,
okay.
I don't know if it's on Game Pass or PS Plus, but it did come to consoles. I think it was like $20 or something. It's
Oh
reasonable.
man, yeah. Like I said, I totally forgot the name of it, so I forgot that I really wanted to play that.
It blew me away that like they used was version 1, but I couldn't believe it was like May 2022. I was like, oh my god, like it's been 2 years since I played this. It doesn't feel that way. So that's been fun. But outside of that, it's just been those games, and also the next one we're going to talk about, which will be for our main events, Phantasy Star IV. fellas. We're going to get into a little bit of history of Phantasy Star. So this series goes back as far as 1988, which is pretty incredible for any RPG series, because this was shortly after, I think, Final Fantasy 1 came out. I think that was like 87. So, right. So this was on the Master System. It wasn't quite on the Genesis just yet. And since then, it spawned a few sequels. So it went part 2 was released in 1990. Phantasy Star 3 was in July 1991, and then today's game was released pretty late in the Genesis's life cycle, February 95. So this was an even later release that there's no way I would have played this back then.
Oh yeah,
right. And plus I wasn't even in RPGs back then. Like I think the first RPG I played was with Udisi was Mystic Quest.
Yep.
Right, and that was probably like, I don't know, 96, 95.
Yeah. I played that because it was my second ever game on Super Nintendo, but that was only like 93, 94.
Oh wow.
And then I definitely didn't feel like I was ready for the big leagues when it came to RPGs.
Yeah, after playing this game, like there's no way that going from Mystic Quest, I would have had an easy time getting into this one, because it's definitely like a more traditional Japanese RPG from the time.
I didn't even know they existed until like the later consoles, RPGs in general. Like I didn't know that style.
Probably
of game.
Final Fantasy 7 or something.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 7. Exactly. That was the first time that I heard about it. And like Chrono Cross. Is that the one for PlayStation?
PlayStation was Chrono Cross.
Yeah. So I knew about those two. Those were like the first RPGs I've ever heard of.
Yeah, and that's probably like when RPGs blew up though, right? Is with Final Fantasy 7, and that's when like Chrono Cross came out, and Xenogears, like the Square's sort of golden age of RPGs was on the PS1 at the time. So it makes sense a lot of people. That's when they loved it, because that's when I grew to love them too.
Like Final Fantasy 3 was big on Super Nintendo, but that was always like the weird kids in class would talk about that.
Exactly.
Like, what? We're playing Turtles in Time. What are you talking about? Yeah. So to set up the story for Phantasy Star 4, because we're going to go a little bit about the development, and then we usually set up a little bit of sort of a history of the game, or some of the story revolving around it. And we'll get into our impressions and everything, all the fun stuff about the game. So this story, it's pretty unique in that I would say, unlike most RPGs of the time, they didn't have really a connecting story, because we were used to Final Fantasy, and I don't even think really Dragonware or Dragon Quest had connecting stories. So Phantasy Star 1 was in 1988, and then all these games take place within 1,000 years of each other, which is interesting. So Phantasy Star 4, which is the game we're talking about today, takes place 1,000 years after Phantasy Star 2, but also 1,000 years before Phantasy Star 3, which is weird to think.
I was looking into that because I saw your notes on this, and a lot of it talks about how 4 is the sequel to 2, and I was like, what happened to 3?
Yeah.
And then I found out that 3 is kind of like Resident Evil 2 and 3. They're like back to back with each other.
Yeah, they're running parallel to each other. And I don't know the finer details of 3. Yeah, but they're really different.
Yeah, 3 is weird because it has these branching timelines, and like depending on what the choices you make, you become like your grandkids eventually.
Yes.
And so you'll change your whole trajectory of your life if you do certain things. So that's very different than any of the other Phantasy Stars. All of them had stories, but none of them like that.
Different than any RPG I've ever played.
It wasn't very well received.
Oh, yeah.
But I played it recently, and I think it's good. Like, it's fun. It's weird because it's like those kind of, you don't think that far ahead in an RPG, but it's weird, and it gets kind of boring at times. But it was fun. I liked it.
Yeah, and I think it's because again, like most RPGs back then didn't really do this, but I always end up thinking back to Mass Effect and that trilogy, right? Because that had a connective story through 1 through 3, and it's such a rare thing to see in general. And I was pretty fascinated that Phantasy Star did this 35, 36 years ago.
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible. So to set up Phantasy Star 4, this takes place on a planet called Motavia, which is, in this game's universe, it's within the Algol star system. And Phantasy Star 4 takes place in Motavia, and this planet, originally in Phantasy Star 1, was just like sort of a desert planet. Like, it was just dead, it was just sand. There's like not much life at all blooming here. In Phantasy Star 2, Motavia is named Mota, so Phantasy Star 2 takes place, I think it is 1,000 years after Part 1, right? And in this era, they renamed the planet to Mota, and now it's run by an artificial intelligence called the Mother Brain, which regulates the planet's climate and biosystems and everything else. It regulates the system, essentially. And beyond that, what happens is, in the events of Phantasy Star 2, Mother Brain is destroyed, which, what happens is it kind of goes rogue and starts spawning bad biomonsters, and they end up destroying Mother Brain, but what ends up happening is it throws a planet in like a tailspin. So all ecological life starts to die. It goes back to its sort of desert land. And this is what's considered the Great Collapse in the main story of the game, in the whole story arc. So Phantasy Star 4 takes place after the Great Collapse. And in this instance, you play as these hunters. There's Alice and Chaz. Chaz is her apprentice. and they're hired as to hunt these bio monsters because in the town you're in, the game starts with like I think it's a principal who tells you like there's these monsters in the basement. You got to figure out what's going on, kind of thing.
Yeah, they're like the hunters of them. He's like an apprentice to her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they find out that it's something evil, and there's like bio monsters are spawning everywhere. And then what ends up happening is Zio. It's a pretty fun name. He's a black magician, and he appears and he basically wants to destroy Motavia, and then eventually the entire Algol system. So the interesting thing about this game is like every 1,000 years there's some sort of cataclysmic dark event that happens, which is pretty incredible. Like there's a recurring theme, which it made me think of the Matrix, where it's like Zion is destroyed and it's built up again, right? Mm-hmm. There's always the one. But in this instance, it's pretty interesting. That's like over every 1,000 years, some catastrophic dark presence takes over, and they redo everything. It's usually some descendant of the previous game, which is pretty incredible. So in Phantasy Star IV, Zio summons the Dark Force, which is the recurring entity throughout the entire Phantasy Star series. That's really what's causing all these cataclysmic events. And then what the party ends up finding out later that it's related to the Profound Darkness, which is like the embodiment of evil in the universe. And the whole impetus for this game is after that, they have to go travel to the Profound Darkness's dimension to destroy it so it doesn't destroy the entire galaxy. I didn't get to the end there, but that's really like
I didn't finish.
Yeah, it's really sort of the setup of everything, and the whole game is really just you getting to that point where you're going to destroy the Profound Darkness and basically sell the Algol system. The development of this game, it was made by a pretty small team that worked on Phantasy Star 2. And the director, Ryoko Kodama, he was the designer and one of the producers on the first game. He wanted to make sure that he'd get everyone he could from the original staff to work on 4. And their big challenge when I read a developer interview on this was that they were having issues with the 2 megabyte cart, which was 16 megabits back then. That was like the big bit war days, right?
I love it.
You guys remember those advertisements? Always like 48 megabits, 24, like all these big buzzwords.
No idea what that meant.
Yeah, like I'm sure I told parents.
They always called them megs.
Yeah.
24 megs.
And he's like, 24 megs.
Yeah. so the standard cartridge is 16 megabits, which is 2 megabytes, and then they had to transition all their programming and all the workflow to their larger carts, which are 24 megabits, which is 3 megabytes, which
that's so crazy.
It blows my mind. But I say this all the time, but it's like we think about when games were 3 megabytes big, and now you and I, all of us are installing games that are like 150 gigs.
Yeah, or more. Yeah.
Yeah, which is 75,000 times Phantasy Star 4.
Gosh, it's so crazy. Man.
It's really ridiculous. And then to make matters worse, because this had a bigger cart, they actually had to raise the price of this game. So this retailed for $100 in 1995 for one single game.
That's probably why I never saw it.
Probably
wasn't allowed to see it.
Yeah. Don't even look at it.
They had this behind the counter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to ask for it.
It's crazy because I don't know what the Genesis retail for around this time. I'm sure it was probably around $100 because Sega CD was out. Yeah, 95. Yeah. Saturn was out. 32X. So it had to be like $100.
They were lowering it daily almost.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody who bought a Sega Genesis in 95, to be honest. Everybody... I had mine in like 93 and I kept it well beyond 95, but I didn't buy it then.
Yeah, 95 we were talking about PlayStation, and then we knew N64 was on the horizon.
Yeah. So it's hard to say, like, if you had a $100 Genesis, like you're gonna blow the same amount for one single game.
That's
crazy.
The fourth in a series also, like if you're getting a new Genesis, you probably wouldn't start with 4.
Well, you might, because you might think it's like Final Fantasy where you don't have to.
Oh, that's fair too.
And then you get it and you're like, true. I am lost.
Yeah. The game does a pretty decent job of catching you up, but it's still like 1995 catch up, all it can do.
It helps that like each game is spaced that far apart in their timeline.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels separate.
It does. Yeah, so the development team thought that Phantasy Star 2 had an ending that was mostly unresolved. I'm not sure what the ending was on that, but I'm sure it meant...
Phantasy Star 2... You said the year it was released, but was it on Master System or was it on Genesis?
That was on Genesis. Okay. That was the first one that was on Genesis, yeah. So by then they transitioned to the Genesis. So they felt like they needed to have closure to that story, and that's why they made Phantasy Star 4. So it's still interesting that they thought it was unresolved, but then, again, this game takes place 1,000 years after the events of that game.
Well, I was reading about 3, and like that all takes place on a planet that blew up in 2.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And
in
then
the future, past 3.
Yeah, but then 3 takes forever to finish. It has to go beyond 4's story just to finish.
Yeah.
So 4 was definitely the one that directly connected.
It was, and it's really cool. Like it's playing this as an adult. Like there's no way to play this as a kid. It was a really awesome experience.
Yeah,
They do a good job of like connecting it to 3 though. Like so the things that happen in 3, you create some of those things happening in 4, which is which is weird. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in addition to that, the team they cut down the party size. I think it was like from 5 main, or excuse me, it was down from 8 characters in the main in Phantasy Star 2, which is crazy to have 8 characters on the screen at once.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they cut it down to 4, which they felt, they felt like they would have more time to characterize each one, which makes perfect sense. Like you have less. It's kind of like Avengers Civil War or something, where it's like trying to fit all those characters. They made it work, but it's really hard to do.
I liked in this one, in just the first part that I was playing, they swapped out like 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
So you didn't even have to worry about like, oh, they're in my party, but I'm not leveling up. It's like, no, they're just off somewhere else. And I've got this person now.
Yeah, it's really great. And also they wanted to focus a lot on the actual world building of this universe, which you could tell it's something, now we see like now when we play games, when you go up to an object, you highlight or you select it, and it'll give you like some sort of, bit of info on it, like if it's a note or even if it's just like, this is a pencil, someone have written with it.
Oh, yeah.
But games didn't always do that, and it was really interesting that this was really something they were focusing on, was making sure that everything would have a story, even down to like, why a candle would exist in this universe. Like the literal what and whys of, of a universe. And I think that really comes through when you play this. Like everything is pretty well realized. Like they really make it seem like you're on this, barren planet and you're traveling around. And then in addition to that, the character personalities weren't really designed ahead of time. They're kind of like drawn, and then they kind of iterated upon that, and that's how they decided on a lot of the character designs for this game. And then also one thing was Chaz, who eventually becomes the main character. This game does a pretty crazy twist where it ends up killing I think what's his name, Alain?
The leader, like his mentor.
Yeah, his
Alice.
mentor, Alice. Yeah.
Alice, yeah.
And then there's a character in Phantasy Star 2 named Alice, who's sort of the main heroine of that game, and Chaz is a descendant of her. So again, it's connecting different generations all within a few sequels on here. So I guess we'll get into some of the reviews here. Sometimes we kind of go through like what's been released around this time. I think 95 is a pretty notable year. We had a lot of things come out and happen around this year. So some games that were out in 95 roughly around this time, which would have been like January to March. There was Battle Royale Toshinden, which came out in Japan. That's the fighting game, and that was like one of the big launch games for the PS1. It came out in September here. Bust a Move, which is always a fun puzzle game.
Oh, wow.
Star Wars Dark Forces, another huge
nice.
PC game. That came out in 95. Ristar, I think that game's pretty cool on the Genesis.
On Genesis, yeah.
Yeah. Panzer Dragoon came out, so the Saturn was already making games.
Jeez.
Oh, wow.
By the time Phantasy Star 4 had come out. Chrono Trigger's released this year on Super Nintendo, Kirby's Dream Land 3, Mega Man 7, and surprisingly, Street Fighter Alpha was out in arcades at this time in 95.
Man, no wonder I wouldn't have heard of this like when Chrono Trigger came out. That was almost as huge as Final Fantasy.
It was.
Yeah, everybody loved that game.
And then also this year, like I said, PS1 was released September 95. The Saturn had been out for, I think, close to a year at this point. And then Virtua Fighter 2 was already out in arcades in late 94. So I'm trying to frame how kind of dated even Phantasy Star 4 would have been at this time, even though Genesis was still around, but this was still a big game, but it was just a game that it was hard to pay attention to with everything else going on. So we have a couple reviews here. So we usually cover like GamePro, EGM, and Nintendo Power. So this is not going to be a Nintendo Power.
No.
So I have scores from GamePro. This was issue 76 from February 1995. This had Weapon Lord on the cover, which was a game that I really wanted to play back then. And
Weapon Lord?
Yeah, it was a fighting game with like these Viking-looking guys, and
nice.
It looked really cool, and it ends up being not a great game. So there's that.
Sounds about par for the course.
Yeah. So in GamePro, they gave Phantasy Star 4, they gave graphics a 3. These are all at 5, by the way, I should say. Yeah.
I would actually, for Genesis and for that late, like it looks really
It
good.
looks really good, especially with the
Yeah.
cutscenes and everything. Like we'll dive into that, but I think it's a lot better than the 3.
Yeah.
You know? Sound 3.5, control got a 4, fun factor of 4. They thought that it was the first console-specific RPG that brought its fantasy world to life, which I completely agree with that. I think this does a really good job of that.
I would actually knock the control lower than the graphics because, like,
I would.
I've been trying to, like, when you're trying to click on something, sometimes your character just keeps walking and turning and spinning.
Yeah.
And then it'll always say, like, quit playing around. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
It's like, I know. That's why I was aiming the other way.
Yeah, I'm trying to go a block left, lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of it isn't it too, especially when some of the menuing's kind of annoying to do. So yeah, I probably would knock down the control below the graphics because graphics are really good compared to control. Yeah. They really love the cutscenes that help flesh out the story, but they criticize the static intro, which is a weird thing to make. I was like, it's not that big a deal. Like
that's kind of normal for all these games back then.
Yeah. But they did love the combat options and the macros, which we'll talk about too, because I think that's one of the coolest features of this game are the macros. EGM in issue 69. This was April 95. Mortal Kombat 3 was on the cover. So again, like this shows you where games were at this time and what was coming out kind of against Phantasy Star IV. Mortal Kombat 3 was on the cover. They also were talking about Street Fighter Legends, as it was called, but it was Street Fighter Alpha. Before, I guess they got the proper name. And then for EGM, it got an 8. These are out of 10, by the way. It got an 8, an 8.6, a 7, and a 7.5. They thought the best feature was the long quest. The worst feature, they thought it wasn't very different from the previous games in the series.
It's so different than 3.
I think it's pretty different. Like,
3 was different than everything.
Yeah, I played 2, and it's pretty drastic from, 2 was 1990-ish, so 5 years later.
The macros were a new thing, too.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that before in any classic RPG. And they thought that the plot wasn't strong, which I thought wasn't the case. Like I thought, like
it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, like it hits the ground running pretty quickly.
Yeah,
and they also cited the $100 price tag is pretty steep, which is absolutely
I
fair.
agree that.
You should totally call that out. Yeah, and overall they loved it. Like they thought it was a really solid RPG, but a couple of the reviewers just were kind of lukewarm to it, which is fair.
Yeah.
So this game, back then it was kind of received in the middle. It was kind of middling, but since then this game has kind of grown in fondness. But Mike, maybe we'll start with you before we get into the game. Like, what made you want to choose Phantasy Star IV? Beyond the fact that I was like, hey, what game do you want to cover?
Yeah, well, it was funny because I knew it wanted to be Sega, and I was like, I can go like the Sonic route, or I can go, something popular in Sega. But I was like, I want to go with something that I only recently played for one, and then I also as a kid, I had a Sega, and I never had a Super Nintendo, and I had friends who had both. And I had friends who had Super Nintendos. And almost everybody played the Super Nintendo before the Sega. So I really liked my Sega, and I would defend it a lot. And I could put games, like if, you put Art of Fighting out, I could put Streets of Rage out. You put out Street Fighter, I could put out Mortal Kombat, Blood Code. So I always felt the Genesis had better sports games. But I did have a friend who had Mystic Quest, and I didn't have anything really like that. And I was like... I guess that wins. I don't have anything I can put up again. Lo and behold, I had no idea that there was this amazing RPG. And then I had heard rumblings because I was looking up, what kind of Sega RPGs were there? Because I don't really remember any. And they're like, this series is amazing, and this game in particular, you could put it up there, Pepsi Challenge with any RPG in that era, and it'll go toe to toe with them. I still think that maybe Final Fantasy III is maybe better, but this isn't that far off,
Yeah, this, I'm glad you picked this one too, because, like I mentioned, you told me about this, and I'd heard about it the same way, kind of you had, where it's I'd always seen rumblings, and even as a kid, you're right, I really didn't, beyond the fact that I wasn't in RPGs that much at all, it felt like I never really saw them on the Genesis. I think I might have rented Shadowrun once and had no idea what was going on. But it's not like, there wasn't a Final Fantasy equivalent that I knew of, at least back then.
I can't even think of him now, other than, he says Shadowrun.
There's really not many. There's, what's that game? Highlight. Beyond Highlight, where it's called, which isn't a good game. No. But that's an RPG on there.
That's right.
But that's also on, isn't it on PC? It's on a lot of things.
It's on the PC. Yeah. There's Saturn. Yeah, there's a few Highlight
Wasn't
games.
It on Saturn? And
I think NES had one as well.
Yeah.
So that's but regardless, Sega to me wasn't known for RPGs.
Yeah, and so
we've had a hidden gem under this the whole time.
That's exactly why I picked it, was because I was like, this is going to be one that's perfect for this podcast, and I know when these guys play, they're going to be like, oh, this is really good, and I'm happy we did this, because that's how I felt after I was done. I was like, oh, this really is as good, and maybe the reason why I didn't get so many good reviews is that nobody could play it because it was $100.
Yeah, and for inflation, I looked it up. It's $205 today.
I would never buy a game for that much money. That's crazy.
It's funny. The complete copy of this is $200, so it's commensurate with inflation.
Okay. It's done well. Okay.
Yeah,
but it's depreciated in value.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that would have been the case too. There's no way in hell I would have been able to convince my parents to buy this for $100. No way.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't see it for rent at all either. But Deuce, did you have any familiarity with Fantasy? I'd imagine you probably got the same familiarity I had, which was Phantasy Star Online. If that, like, you might have heard about that from me.
Really, I've only heard it in name. I've never seen gameplay of PSO, and I just knew that Phantasy Star was the Sega Final Fantasy. That's how, in my head, that's how it went. To the point where I thought that, like, oh, each one is an individual game. I actually thought all 4 of them were on Genesis. I didn't realize that one was on the Master System, which is crazy. So then when I did finally play this, I was like, man, like, this really does go toe to toe. Like, good for Sega. Like, they needed that.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess we'll dive into the game now, because this game is pretty lengthy. I've only got a couple hours in.
Yeah.
It's about 20 hours in length from what I read, 20 to 25. You're just doing sort of the main story bits, and then I'm sure it probably is like 40 plus if you want to do all the side stuff, because I know there's a few side things here which I haven't really gotten to at all, because I'm still pretty early in the game. But the game starts off, like I said, it hits the ground running pretty quickly. Like, you're immediately thrown in. Like, I think one of the hard things with a lot of RPGs is the slow build-up time, whether it's a bunch of dialogue or cutscenes, or just the fact that you really don't do much combat in the first, hour and a half. But this game, pretty instantly, like, you go to this town, you're hired as a hunter, you go, hunt down the biomonsters in the basement. It's almost like a combat tutorial. But what did you guys think of that? Like, did you feel the same way, especially with how it started out?
Go for it.
Oh yeah, I did enjoy that it started out that quick, and I really enjoyed the comic book style cutscenes.
Oh, those were really great. Yeah, like manga style.
The way they had the panels and everything, and I felt like I got into understanding what was going on pretty quick. Like, I feel like the problem with a lot of the RPGs of that time, it was so slow that you weren't really fully paying attention.
Yeah, especially when it's just like a single text block and you're mashing through.
And imagine putting a smartphone next to you and that's happening.
Yeah. And so I was paying attention to this, and I was like, okay, I'm on board with this. And now I just hope that I can stick with it, because these games end up being so long, and you get on to such tangents that you do start to forget what you were even fighting for.
Yeah. And one cool feature, though, is that this is one of a lot of late RPGs adopted this. Like, I think there was like Octopath Traveler and whatever else recently. But you have a dialogue option in the game where it'll reiterate what it just said.
Oh, yeah.
So if you haven't played in a while, there's at least that sort of little nugget to lead you on where you were, which I think is incredible, because no Final Fantasy I knew of back then, or any RPG I played, did that. Like, if you hadn't played in a while, well, good luck. You have to hope you remember where you were.
Yeah, so I had picked this game up like a year ago and put it down, and picked it up and put it down. And it's nice, because every time I pick it up, I'm like, okay, I know what I'm doing immediately, and I can get right back into the game. And the macros really help too, because then I'm setting things up exactly how I want them. So it's very easily pick up and play, because you don't have to like reteach yourself. You already have set controls for yourself to succeed.
That's true. Yeah. So the combat in this game, it's sort of like a dungeon view, which were a lot of older games had at the time on PC. So it's really just like you have your static party, which you can see their backs, and then in front of you is a monster or whatever set of enemies, and it's pretty flat. Like, Final Fantasy has a dynamic where it's like everything's kind of like off perspective, so it looks like it has depth.
Except for Mystic Quest had the behind the back.
That's true. Yeah, Mystic Quest did. You're right. Yeah. But this one has and that's how the combat flow is. And like Mike said, which I love this feature so much. Like, I really was shocked when I played this, but it has macros, which you can set up specific actions. I think you could set up to like 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Right? And you could set, for each party member, you could set up sort of a preferred action, which will take place as soon as you hit one button on that macro. They'll execute that attack one after another in their successive turns.
Yeah, it's nice. So like, if you want to have like a heal macro, so like, okay, I gotta bust this out soon. All you have to do is hit a button. You have to go to each person, set up what they're gonna do. It makes it so much easier to get through long fights faster.
Yeah, and battles go a lot quicker too, because it doesn't have an auto battle like later RPGs would. But this one, it's like, versus hitting each command, you just hit macro and just grind on through, or you could escape.
Yeah,
I saw the macro option kind of late into my playthrough in this. A little more recent to like what today is, but I don't know if I will use it, because I've seen it in later Final Fantasy games that kind of had this, and I'm just like, my personality type, I'm always like trying to think of every potential outcome, and I'm like, what if I forget a certain
Yeah.
way to do things? Like, I don't know if I've made enough macros.
Yeah. Can I have 25, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only, of course, there's only so many macros you get set up, and you might need like the macros really help because, again, I forget how old games were with their what's the word I'm looking for, the rate where monsters appear.
Oh yeah.
Right, it's pretty frequent in this game.
Especially
Yeah.
like if you're in like the fields or
God,
the forest and
that's annoying.
stuff, like it gets it becomes a slog.
Yeah, you really forget. At least I did, like how old games were, because like Final Fantasy had a pretty curious rate too. But this one was like, oh my god, like I moved like 2 steps.
Yep.
And I'm in a battle. So that's where macros are really valuable, because instead of hitting attack, because they're usually weaker enemies, you just hit the one macro and it just attacks on through.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys thought about the magic system here, but it has a combo sort of system where you can match up with certain party members and they'll do a combo attack like in Chrono Trigger. My one sort of thing I didn't like on this game is that some of the names are really insane.
Yes.
Yes.
Like that. I was going to bring up that point. I'm like, why are you trying to be unique? Just tell me what fire is and tell me what ice is.
Yeah. You're like, what does this do? I
Yeah.
have to throw it at an enemy just to see what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's one that's called Foi, Foi. I was like, oh geez, like it costs 3 technique points. What is it doing? It's a really powerful attack, but I still don't know what it really does. But what makes it worse is like like when you go in your menus, which is kind of an intuitive anyway, like when you're equipping gear or swapping it out, but sometimes there is a descriptor button, like you'll examine it. But it doesn't have that for the spells.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if this is something where maybe the manual, you had to have the manual in order to
probably.
maybe it would have the descriptions or something.
I've
or you
had
need
to.
the guide.
I've had to look up on my phone like a number of times. I'm like, okay, this weird 3-letter combination. What the heck does it do?
Yeah.
I'm like, is it a party buff or is it an attack?
Yeah.
Like one is called Res, R-E-S.
That's heal.
And that's what I mean. It's like
And I think it's
heal.
like I don't know.
I would have thought
Resolve or-
it was resurrect
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah. it's
Which
the heal
maybe
one.
it does. I didn't try my party member when they were dead.
No, it's just heal. In fact, it doesn't resurrect. I don't have a life option. I'm like,
I haven't found one yet.
I've killed
Maybe
off
I
a
have.
character, and I'm like, wait, how do I bring them back? I don't
Yeah.
even know if I can go into a town and do it.
I did the same thing. I just went back to a town. I was like, oh jeez. I
Somebody,
ran away from everything.
anybody,
Yeah.
help me.
Yeah.
Someone help me.
So it's one of those things where part of me appreciates that in one sense, because again, they wanted to make this like its own universe. So they the director even said, like, if it was up to me, I wouldn't even have the monsters named in like a human language, which I think is great to commit to that kind of universe. But in 1995, this wasn't going to work when we don't know what these spells do.
And now you couldn't look it up.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's the things, like if you rented this without a manual, I don't know where you would have figured that out. Like maybe the magazine if you were lucky,
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me want to get the player's guide, but that is a ridiculous priced guide now these days.
From what I saw on eBay, like it goes from 80 to 150.
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
I'm sure that Retro Mags or someone on the archive probably has like a PDF, which I've done that. Like that's why I read some magazines.
That could help.
I'll
Yeah.
put on my
Game
tablet
facts.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, game facts for sure.
But that's like going into the archives and blowing dust off of
Yeah.
it. Like,
One thing that I really liked about this game, when it set up like the beginning, is it's definitely like Phantasy Star is like a really good name for it, because it really it have technology and there's a lot of sci-fi to it, but it's really like a fantasy based system. And
yes,
3 and 2 were kind of like that, but 3 was in the future and it was very technological. This one's very much like kind of feels like a Final Fantasy-ish kind of game though, but like with technology involved. Kind of like
it's a great sci-fi fantasy thing to it.
Like
Yeah.
there are certain Final Fantasy titles that went into space, or like Final Fantasy 1 dealt with time travel, but they always felt more on the fantasy side of things,
right,
with swords and dragons, and then there happened to be technology.
Yeah.
Whereas this seems like a very good, like, kind of 50-50.
Yeah, it's like you could tell like it's like a decaying technology and it's like becoming magic because it's so old from when it was actually around that it seems like magic to them.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it does feel like the atmosphere, it's bright. I think the graphics in here, for one, I'll call that, like, they're really good. I love the sprites in this game. It looks like a Genesis game, which that is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's a really good looking Genesis game. I think in particular the battle sprites look really amazing. There's some really awesome designs there. But also what I was getting to is that the NPCs in here some are really great because they're very bleak and kind of pessimistic about things. Which again, like, the world is dying, and it's interesting to have an RPG where it doesn't sugarcoat that. Like, these people are in this plight, and they're telling you this in the game. Like, every person you meet is like, am I going to survive? Like,
And it's not just one town. Usually, like, in the other series, like there would be one town that's doing terrible and one town that's very prosperous. But this is like, yeah, it's bad everywhere.
yeah.
The whole world is slowly dying.
Which I think is a really great theme, because I'm not used to that in these, usually like you said, there's a heavy fantasy theme in Final Fantasy, but in this, and the World's End and some of those, but this game, like this is just like bleak.
Yeah.
Everything about it.
I think
It's like post apocalyptic.
I think I read in like the third game, they are on multiple planets.
Yeah, and it's like multiple generations and like dynasties and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
And later in this game, you can travel to planets. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
How far did you guys get? Like, did you get?
I got to this town where you had to go very far north and very far east, and then I had to go through a cave system. They're like protected behind mountains.
Oh, you're a little bit before I was.
And then there's like the whole town that you walk into is nothing but tents, and then they tell you to go into this one tent and down into a basement, and then I'm stuck in the basement because, like you said, every 2 steps there's a monster.
Yeah, I know exactly. Right. I recently stopped after well, spoiler. I don't know. Are we spoiling or
go ahead.
It's fine. It's a 30-year-old game.
Okay, I was like, you kill Zio.
Nice.
There's like a scene where you kill him, but he's not the big bad. There's still the darkness, and then
the
there's
profound darkness.
and then there's the profound darkness. They keep upping the darkness level on us.
The absolute.
So I killed Zio, which was a really cool scene, and it was like, it's crazy when your leader person, Alice, when she gets killed, like that's a pretty like heavy moment. You're like,
pretty bold for a
you think,
game. Back
you don't
then.
think they're gonna do something like that, and then like right off the bat, it happens basically.
You don't expect
My best gear.
Literally.
Like Aerith is probably the most infamous party member to die.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's also interesting that Alice, is killed in this game way back then, and like that she's the main character for most of the game. For at least for that part of the game. Or
For the first
third.
first third of the game, she's the main character, and then she dies, and then you got like the guy who's kind of been a thorn in your side the whole time. You're like, will you just keep up, please? And then you're the guy now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Chaz, and it's a pretty interesting story arc. Like Chaz starts off as the apprentice, and he's forced to lead a team now.
Yeah, it is really cool.
It was, I don't know how many dialogue boxes before I realized his name was Chaz and not Gaz with a G.
Oh, with a G.
The way the font looks.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I only got to interact with a few of the characters in this game, but they all seem pretty interesting so far. Like there's a mix of like humanoid characters, and there's also some sort of android characters. They all have their sort of instances for how they fit in the story. Like there's one, his name is Grizz. He's some sort of alien who uses axes. Like his whole story is like he wants to avenge his parents who were killed by Zio. So he joins your party to lead the charge against that. And there's later on you get more classes. Like there's a healer. His name's like Raja. He's a Dazorian priest. I have no familiar with Dazorians, but
I think those are the cat people, right?
These are the cat people.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize there was cat people in there. That's pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
they're like cat-looking people. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you even get like a smaller character who I don't think he really does much combat. He might just be like a support character, but he's a traveling archeologist, which I'm pretty excited to see what the hell he's all about.
Seth. Yeah.
Does he have a whip
I would hope he does.
and a fedora?
Yeah. So I guess because we're still pretty early in the game, but how would you guys compare this to games you played back then for Final Fantasy or I don't know if you played Chrono Trigger back then either.
I played all of them now. So for me, I think that this is something. Just like when I was going to be able to put up Sonic against Mario, like I think this is a game that I'm not being like a homer in a sense. Like I'm not just like trying to defend this thing. I can say like, no, it is actually that good. Like I said, I think personally, I still think Final Fantasy 3 of the 16-bit era. That's my.
I'm gonna probably at the tops.
It's probably my favorite still too. Like that storyline, I liked even more, and like that things that happened there, I liked even more. But this isn't that far behind, and it probably is my number 2. But I would put Chrono Trigger 3, even though I like Chrono Trigger a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe Mario RPG up there high too.
I would put it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think we got to.
That's number 1 for me.
Yeah.
Dude, see, I think because for me, I think your perspective is most interesting because you weren't a Sega kid at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
And also, like you're probably most used to playing Final Fantasy, and I guess that's really like the bulk of your RPG experience, right?
I played Chrono Trigger on the DS.
Yeah.
I have that, and that's when I think I played it on Super Nintendo way back in the day. Briefly, I borrowed it from somebody, maybe you, but then I really got into it on the DS. And for this really jumps up into my top 5 or 10 for 16-bit era RPGs.
Oh wow!
But it's gonna go below like most Final Fantasies and Chrono Trigger and Mario RPG. But I wouldn't dismiss it. I wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm never going to play this." I do want to actually play more of this, even though we're done talking about it. Like,
I think it lives up to the hype, right?
Yeah,
like, that's the best way to describe
I think it does, because this game, like I was talking about when we were going through some of the reviews, like back then it was kind of mixed, and it's been interesting that over the years this game has kind of gotten sort of a cult following, and now it's starting to get a lot more fondness for what it did back then. And I think particularly what's most interesting to me is how it had all the interconnected stories across the 4 games. But beyond that, like, it's still a really damn good RPG. Like, even when I first started playing, I was like, wow, like, there's a lot I like already just to start out. I also, like, I'm not used to how difficult these games can be, though, so I've already died like 5 times.
I was so happy.
I'm glad I have save states.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have it on, I had played it on Switch, and the save states are just a godsend.
They're bliss.
Yeah.
They're bliss. And it's interesting because this game, to me, it's been released over the years quite a bit, like in all kinds of different collections. Like it was on the Sonic Ultimate Genesis collection.
That's where I first saw it, but I don't think I ever played it.
I don't think I did either.
That's where I first played. Was that on Xbox?
It was on Xbox.
Yeah, that's where I first played it,
that,
and that's when I fell in love with it. Was
exactly. Yeah. So it's like I totally dismissed it back then too. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because I assumed it was a Genesis RPG that might have been not worth playing or aged poorly.
For back then, I know I dismissed it because it was an RPG on a collection, and I wanted to just play quick games.
That's
and I knew
that's true too.
This was going to take a lot, but now that Switch has become such a great like portable system with the save states and everything, like it really fits on that. I can sit down and play it and then just save anywhere at any time.
I think this game would be a lot harder to get into back then, but I think for the fact, and that's what's really is fun, is that it's on the Switch.
Yeah,
this was a Genesis exclusive back then because it was Sega versus Nintendo.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
And it's crazy. Like now you're just playing your Switch. It has save states. I think this is a great way to get into it because I don't know how well the other ones have aged.
I don't know. I played 2 a long time ago, and it was good. It's not as good as, because I think it's on something. 2 is on something.
It's on one of the, I think it's on like Sega, whatever the more recent Genesis collection.
Yeah, and I played it on. I played it on the collection. I've never played.
Is 2 on one of the minis?
Yeah, it might be on one of the minis because this is also on the Genesis mini.
Yeah, maybe. I can't remember, but and I play a little bit of 3 as well. I've read a lot about 3. I didn't play as much.
3 and 4 are in the Sonic collection, aren't they? Or in the Mega collection?
So.
Yeah,
I believe so.
I thought 3 was on the Switch collection, but it's not.
It's not. I checked 2 is only part 4, and then they did sort of an updated Phantasy Star 1. Like they added some quality of life changes, but it's really funny when you start that game up. It actually has a little disclaimer saying like, be cautious. Like we've updated it, but there's still situations where you can save yourself into a hole, and you might be up. Shit creek or something.
Because you can't get out of it.
Yeah, because you might, whether you miss something or, you're out of items or whatever the case may be, there's some instance of like, old school games where it's like, if you're not prepared.
Soft lock galore.
Yes. Yeah, that does happen.
So it's like, there's a lot of things like they added a map and all that. So I know Phantasy Star 1 is on Switch. I think it's one of those like Sega Ages Classics or something like that. Where it's like, $6 or $7, which I'd like to check out because I think that was a 3DS game beforehand. Yeah. So Switch Online, the Genesis app only has Phantasy Star 4.
I just wish that this one had like a translation where like all your magic spells or your tech is now switched into what you normally know in an RPG.
That'd be cool.
That's the worst thing to get into this game are the names.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing to stick to the world building and lore of the game, but it also sucks when it impacts you understanding what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
So you definitely need a guide handy for that at least. Like you might have to make a cheat sheet or something.
Yeah.
Did you play Phantasy Star Online?
I did. So that was the first Phantasy Star game I ever really got into. Was Phantasy Star Online. It was the first game one of the first games I got on my Dreamcast. And I love that game. Like I knew nothing of the Phantasy Star universe before then, and I'm actually not sure how that story, if it does fit in with the main games.
Can you still play it?
There might be a way to play it through like like I'm sure some local servers or something, but officially you can't really play it.
No.
Yeah. I would really like to. I think you could play it offline at least.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But they really haven't done much since then. That's the thing. It's like Phantasy Star 4 was the last of the Genesis great RPGs.
It's a bummer nobody wants to take it up.
So how did online work when it was before the big era of MMOs?
But it was an MMO, right?
It was. So it was a 4-player MMO. I played with. It's really funny. So I remember I bought my Saturn and like Devil May Cry and some other stuff from this guy on eBay, and we kind of became friends through. Like he was a few years older than me, but he was playing games. Like he showed me through Phantasy Star Online. But it was an MMO, and that was like a really weird experience because there was no voice chat. So you had to use your Dreamcast keyboard, which I eventually got later.
Oh, yes.
Right?
That's
For
right.
Typing of the Dead.
Yes, Typing of the Dead.
Oh, my God.
Gosh.
And it was cool because like you'd party up and you'd play some missions or go to a boss. It was kind of grindy, but it was a different experience. So that was the first game I had played, and then right now there's Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, which it's a free-to-play MMO. It's on Series X and PS5, PS4, like it's on basically everything, I think. I played a little bit of it, but it's also one of those things where it's kind of overwhelming with all the crap it throws at you, like any free-to-play game.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, like we don't get like a true Phantasy Star IV sequel or some.
It would be nice.
Some mainline game.
They need to start some remasters of these where like you said, the Phantasy Star 1 is there, but like whether it's a pixel remaster that they did for Final Fantasy or like Final Fantasy 7 is going through, they need that for some of these.
Yeah,
cool.
I would love a game that takes place in this kind of world like this.
Yeah, like dead technology, this fantasy world. Yeah,
yeah, like so, and this whole thing is like it's all the science fiction trope of like having an AI run your planet and then. You destroy the rogue AI or whatever it is, and ends up destroying the planet.
Is it the same mother brain as
from Metroid? No, I did think that was funny.
Connecting the genres.
I know. I was trying to do the math in my head on what released. Like Metroid released first.
It definitely did. 87. Well, Phantasy Star 1 was 87 in Japan, but even then, like, what are the chances they both would become Mother Brain? Because I think Phantasy Star 2 only had Mother Brain. I don't know if Phantasy Star 1
Yeah,
did.
that's true too.
So it would have been 1990. It would have been well after Metroid.
Phantasy Star Samus crossover.
Yeah.
Fanfic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be a really cool game too, like a Phantasy Star Metroid mashup.
Yeah.
Oh my god, she's using all of her weapons, but she's paired with somebody who uses magic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I want this game to happen.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I guess we'll go into sort of our final thoughts because I know like I would love to get through more of this game and hopefully in some world finish it in some instance. But fellas, what would you think? We'll start with Deucey.
I'm definitely gonna play more of this. Like I said, I might just bite the bullet and get a guide or something like a little. I do tend to like guides more still to this day, even though everything's accessible on my phone. But like that requires me to unlock my phone, scroll. Whereas a guide I can just have on my lap, flip
like
through the
old
pages.
days.
Yeah, and I do want to go through this. And once I decipher what means what, I think I could really get into it. Like I didn't even know there was the combo thing that you mentioned.
Oh, that one's sick.
Yeah, it's really cool when you get into that. Yeah.
Do they teach it to you, or do you sort of have to know?
I think you have to experiment, but of course again
Yeah.
like just use a guide because it's the same thing with like Chrono Trigger where certain combinations do things like there's like a blizzard thing, like a gravity effect, like they're definitely impactful.
I feel like that's what kind of puts Chrono Trigger still above this for me, is that like that kind of taught you
Yes.
as you went. I don't feel like
this
I
one
need,
dropped you in.
Yeah, I don't feel like I need a guide or even an instruction booklet for that one.
I completely agree. I think that's really one of the big downfalls of this game. I don't even want to call it a downfall, but it's really hard to get into because it explains nothing for the menus or your abilities or anything. Like I think it really relies on having the manual or the guide.
Yeah.
Which is nice at first, but then as you get into the game, it gets less and less nice.
Yeah, I'm sure the spells you'll eventually learn what they do because you'll commit them to memory. But it sucks that it's not intuitive enough. Where it's like like you said, why isn't fire fire?
Yeah.
Why isn't ice ice? Right. Why isn't heal
Heal.
Yeah.
Mike, final thoughts on Phantasy Star 4?
I'm very happy that you guys had me on to talk about this. I'm very happy that you guys got to play it and experience it. It makes me happy to know that the N64, these are probably the systems I played most as a kid, and Nintendo a little bit, obviously. But it was just nice to know that there's a game like this that I hadn't really played before that existed for this system that I can go back and kind of like relive my childhood glory days.
Yeah,
and you're introducing us to it. Like
That's right.
Yeah, like it's something that I'm sure now we in hindsight it's like why we played this before.
Yeah.
But now we got the perfect opportunity for it.
Exactly.
And I'm glad we did because I think it's a pretty freaking awesome Genesis RPG. I love the like I said, the sci-fi fantasy theme I think is really fresh, and I'm saying that 30 years later, of course, but compared to like games of the time, I think it's much more interesting than some of the fantasy fare.
Agreed.
If you want to tell us about your Phantasy Star memories, you can find us on Instagram at Legion Gaming Podcast. If you want to email us, we're at legiongamingpod@gmail.com. Mike, you're on Hollywood Video Guys, but where can everyone find you in the world?
Yeah, so hvgpod@gmail.com. If you ever want to get with us, send us something like a topic that you want us to talk about on the show or any movie ideas that we should watch, definitely hit us up on that Gmail. And then you can find us mostly on Instagram because it's just the easiest place to post things, honestly, of a visual medium. So Instagram at Hollywood Video Guys Pod or Hollywood Video Guys Podcast. I'm also on X and Thread, and that's it. Yeah, but
where
please
you find us.
give us a listen if you haven't yet. If you love, we have an episode about video games. Go ahead and listen
We
to
do.
that one.
That was really fun. We did like games based on or movies
Yeah.
based on games,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we also did Deuce and I were just on your Back to the Future episode, which will probably be out by the time this is out, right?
Yeah, so please give us a listen, give us a like and subscribe. Love to have you on board with us.
All right. Deucey, any final words for our friends off in Phantasy Star Lands?
Cast res to continue.
Thank you, everyone.